National Signing Day has come and gone for Northwestern, and while there may not have been a ton of drama, Northwestern, make no mistake, they won signing day. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Northwestern, your daily podcast on the Northwestern Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Locked On Northwestern, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We appreciate you making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can find us. We're also on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern. You can find us there. Wherever you're listening, make sure you're subscribed. You turn on notifications. You don't want to miss an episode as we continue to pump out Northwestern content every week. But yeah, let's get down to it here, because today was a special day. Today was signing day, National Signing Day for one of the two, which the conversation about how that affects college football, totally different than conversation for a different time. It's one of two National Signing Days. It's the first one. 80 to 85% of players sign in this signing day. Northwestern signed 19 players in this signing day, which cannot be ignored. A class that finished 38th nationally. Interestingly enough, somehow, Fitz's best class in his 17 seasons at Northwestern. How about that? So after his worst season, he signs his best class. Credit to him, because this is a program that went 3-9 in 2021, and they went 1-11 in 2022. And here we are, December 21st, now December 22nd, when you're going to be listening to this. Northwestern has a top 40 class. Just the third time that under Fitz that they've cracked the top 50. This class was forged in the fires of 4 wins over 2 years. 3 wins in 2021, 1 win in 2022. And yet, this class is the highest rated class in Fitz's tenure. That's impressive. That's a credit to Fitz. That's a credit to the staff. Despite all the adversity, they overcame it. And as a result, Northwestern signing day has to be considered a win for Northwestern. Because anytime you sign the best class in your program or in your coach's tenure, and he's been here for almost 2 decades, that's impressive. It very much is, because this is a critical class. There's going to be a need for players in this class to make immediate impacts, because there are big names in this program going out the door. Adetomiwa Adebare, Malik Washington, Evan Hull, all big names. Not going to be here next year. Somebody has to step in and fill some roles. And if nothing else, fill quality depth. And I think this class has a chance to do that for Northwestern. I don't know if it's going to be the savior class for Fitz when he's backed into a corner into a year where it certainly feels like he has to have some positive momentum in 2023. I don't know if it's that class. But what I will say is this is nothing short of impressive. When you have other classes out there that are seemingly falling apart at the seams, you look at Florida. Florida's class got worse. You look at schools like Ole Miss. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, one of the most polarizing, lightning rod kind of names in college football. They have 11 commits, and depending on where you look, they can be anywhere from 32 to 56 in the team rankings. They lost a commit to Auburn in the past 48 hours, a 4-star junior college offensive lineman. They lost a 4-star quarterback to Texas A&M. They lost I think a 4-star defensive end to Maryland. So they were hemorrhaging players left and right. That class was getting worse. And they were coming off a good year for them, one of their better years. Texas A&M last year, greatest class of all time, number 1 class ever. This year, bad year, 15th, mid-teens, significant step backwards, which all the more reason, this is evidence that signing day was a win for Northwestern because you signed a top 40 class coming off a 1-win season. These commits have not seen a win since August. And yet, the culture, the coaches, the people, Fitz talked about that in his press conference. That's why these kids stuck with their commitment. He credited all these families. He said this is the best group of families that this staff has had the privilege of being around in one cycle. He raved about the families in this class. But the fact that this class signed all 19 guys, yes, you lost a couple commits over the course of the season on the defensive line. You lost one this past week. You were able to salvage something we will talk about here in a second. You're able to salvage a situation that turned south in the past 7 days, and you figured it out to help address a need that, this is impressive. And I'm going to come back to it. Signing day was a win for Northwestern because the class stuck together. It could have come apart at the seams like you saw at other places. It could have gone sideways very easily. But it's a credit to Fitz. It's a credit to his staff. It's credit to these kids that signed today that this class stuck together, 19 guys, 38th in the country, Fitz's best class in his 17 seasons. Right when he needs it. Right when he needs it. So credit to Fitz, credit to this staff. Just great job. Credit to the kids as signing day. While there was no drama, there were no flips. There was not any losing of a commitment. Nobody flipped anywhere else on signing day. There were no surprises. Northwestern, you have to consider it a win. You have to consider this class, considering the adversity of the program, a win. In a second, we're going to start to take a look at the offensive side of the ball. Then we're going to look at the defensive side of the ball. But first, let's talk about our friends from Bet Online. Bet Online is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season to basketball. And look, you can even find golf or whatever you want there. We've got it all at Bet Online. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at Bet Online as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online, where the game starts. Also, thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen today. For really today and every day. Make sure you check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and Locked On's take of the day. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's start to look at the offense here because you sign 10 commits on the offensive side of the ball. 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 1 running back, a couple tight ends, and 4 offensive linemen. And there seems to be a theme when you look at the offensive side of the ball in this class. Northwestern looked for big bodies that they could mold, that they could develop. On the offensive line, you bring in 4 guys. The smallest being Anthony Bursa at 6'5", 270, and Jordan Knox, depending on where you look, 6'4", 295, or 6'3", 310, depending on if you're on Rivals or 247. But still very large frames out of that group that you can develop. Pieces of clay, as they always say. And, you know, Northwestern's got a good track record right now with the offensive line. Past 2 left tackles have been first-round draft picks because we're counting Peter Skoronski. But you have a track record. You have a track record of development. And you got to win. And it says this game is won in the 6-inch war. Can you move your guy 6 inches? Well, these are some intriguing guys. It's going to take some time for some of them. Some of them play a little bit high when you watch their high school tape. But they're going to get better. And they've got a good staff that has done a great job developing offensive linemen. Kurt Anderson, the offensive line coach there. I'm sure he's excited about these 4 guys coming into his program, coming into his offensive line room. Next, you have 2 tight ends. Not only do you have 2 tight ends, they're both 6'5", massive frames. They're like 210 and 220 right now. You can build those guys up. But the great thing is at 6'5", you can probably get them on the field pretty early and then catch some passes. They may not be the best blockers of all time right now, but they have time to develop. Northwestern seems to love really big tight ends right now. You look at that room right now, feels like everybody in there is really, really big. These 2 guys are going to add to that group. Chico Holt and Camp McGee feel like big gets, literally and figuratively. They're both highly rated. Chico Holt, 4-star on Rivals, just big gets for this Northwestern offense. Wide receiver, you went out and got a couple big wide receivers as well. You went and got Frank Covey, 6'2", 185. Plenty big enough. I think he's a guy who could be relied on, maybe. Ricky Ahumarezi, very big, 6'4", 196. Very big frame. Something that Northwestern lacked these past couple years. And you know you have Malik Washington going out the door. Position of need. You got a quarterback, a bigger quarterback too. Aiden Gray, 6'3", 200 pounds. Mobile. Can make some plays with his legs. Strong arm. Really kind of, when I saw the clips of him, kind of a Brendan Sullivan kind of mold. Similar type of guy. I wonder if that is the direction Northwestern is trying to go at the quarterback position. Then 1 running back, Caleb Komolafe, was a running back and a DB in high school. Will be a running back at Northwestern. Rated most places, I think, as a DB or safety. He almost didn't make it in this class because he was the commit that we did a video on. It came out last week that he was not going to be a part of this class. He had to decommit. Well, they figured it out academically. He signed. He's going to be a part of this class. And you want to talk about a position of need. Evan Hull's going out the door. You got to replace significant production. Komolafe is another body in that room, another depth piece, something to look forward to. My 3 to watch on the offense, Dylan Cinda, 3-star offensive lineman. The first commit of this cycle. Very big frame, 6'5", 300 pounds. That's kind of what you like to see. That's somebody who is big, is strong, has a chance to maybe come in and make an impact as a freshman, which is hard to do on the offensive line. Next up, Jordan Knox, another 3-star offensive lineman, mobile guy, interior guy, 6'3", 6'4", 285, 295, 310 some places. He looks athletic, though. I like the way that his ability to block in space, his ability to position his body to get in the way of smaller guys and seal them off and keep them from making plays. He was somebody that jumped out to me. And then finally, Frank Covey, 3-star athlete, will play wide receiver at Northwestern. Tons and tons and tons of touchdowns in high school. Love his ability after the catch, very much do. And then Northwestern, look, you have a need for some explosion, a go-to wide receiver, because your 2021 go-to guy, he's gone. Your 2022 go-to guy, he's gone. Somebody has to emerge in that wide receivers room. And who better than Frank Covey? He's going to be somebody I have my eye on. In a second here, we're going to take a look at the defense. But first, thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen today. Now make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. Peter Bukowski brings you the biggest stories from around the sports world in 20 minutes. Get the analysis and opinions before anyone else with our local and national experts and insiders. Locked On Sports Today podcast, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, defense. 9 commits, 3D defensive line commits. This group, you kind of lost a couple guys over the course of the year. You lost one in the past week or so. But you still bring in 2 defensive tackle commits, 1 stud defensive end commit. You bring in 2 linebackers, decently big frames. I think decent athleticism. You have Nigel Glover leading the way for you there. Guy who we will talk about here in a second. 4 DBs commits, 2 corners with speed and some playmaking ability. I like the way that they position themselves. 2 physical safeties that look for contact, and I love that. The standouts on this side of the ball that I look to starts up front. It starts in the trenches. Michael Kilbane, the 4-star defensive end on Rivals, 6'4", 240, explosive guy, great pass rush, really bends the edge and can get some pressure on the quarterback. Position of need, because Adetomiwa Adebawore is gone. Somebody's got to step up. Somebody's got to replace the production there. Michael Kilbane, maybe he's the type of guy who can come in and make an impact as a freshman. Maybe he's somebody that really jumps out to you in 2023. I like him. I like his speed and athleticism. The frame's pretty decent for coming out of high school right now. I think he's somebody who can make an impact in 2023. Next up, Tyler Gant, 3-star defensive tackle, 6'3", 280. Position of need. You know you're losing bodies on the defensive line due to the transfer portal, other places. Physical and explosive. 2-time All-State guy. I love guys who show that consistent production from year to year. I thought of the 2 defensive tackle commits. He was the most impressive to me, and I think he may have a quicker path to playing time. Nigel Glover, 4-star linebacker on 247, 3-star on Rivals. 6'3", 213, big frame, fast and athletic, physical, hard hitting, has some nastiness to him, has an edge to him. And look, you need it. You need athleticism at the second level. You desperately need it. And he is a guy who can provide that. And that's what excites me about him. Then you look at the back end. I had a couple. I mean, I was going to go three guys. The two defensive line guys I felt like I had to mention. Nigel Glover, I couldn't pass talking about him. Then these two safeties. I like one more than the other. The other, I will explain why he's on the list. One I like the most, Jacob Lewis, 3-star safety. I think he's a ball hawk kind of guy. Always finds himself around the ball, hard hitting and physical, has some bad intentions. Like, he looks to be very, very physical with every tackle he has, and you like that out of a safety. Damon Walters, the other safety. Early enrollee, that is key. That is key because I think that creates a very accelerated path to playing. Ball hawk, kind of like Jacob Lewis. Physical, likes contact. Similar to Jacob Lewis. I like Jacob Lewis. I think he's a little better athlete. But Damon Walters is going to be on campus sooner. Therefore, I think his path to playing time is probably a little bit quicker. All in all, this class, I like this class. I do. I think it's got some pieces that are definitely needed. Northwestern addressed some issues on the roster. Probably need to go look at wide receiver a little bit more. Probably need to continue to address defensive line. Maybe a linebacker. Maybe a running back. And all of that can happen in February. There's a second signing day. Then it can also happen via the transfer portal. All in all, though, Northwestern won signing day. They did, because they held a class together through all the adversity. And I'm impressed. I'm excited. And I can't wait to see what this class does in the future. That's going to do it for today's episode. Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen today. We really appreciate it. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. We're also on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern. You can find us there. Wherever you're listening, make sure you are subscribed, turn on notifications, leave us a comment, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear it. We're going to be back here talking basketball over the next day or so. And then, that's going to do it for today's episode. I'm your host, Carter Bird. You can follow me on social media at CarterBird13, and I'll see you all next time.